pee real quick while people are coming back.
No. Anything but that. Focus.
You gotta keep talking for the audio people.
Talking for the audio people. They don't want to hear me talk. Let's see. What do man, I'm so sorry, Janet, for what you have right now currently. Ahoy, friends. It's great to see you guys. For those that are just now joining us on the YouTube live, we are sans Janet this week. She is having a tough time and having to have some recovery on her own. It's not great. For those joining us back from Patreon, I love you guys. Veronica, I didn't say I didn't like you. I just said you needed to be blocked because you don't wear matching socks. And we, friends, dear Truth and Justice friends, please wear matching socks for God's sake.
Oh, that's how that whole conversation got started. How I started talking about George.
Oh yeah.
He also one day he always has his pants are always he always wears them a little bit high water because that's part of his cool style. And his socks he had like a baby blue one and a yellow one on the other day. I was like, dude, your socks don't match. And he goes, never do. He's the coolest freaking guy in the world.
I can't.
So cool.
I can't.
I wish I was as cool as George.
I can't do it.
Brian, God, that's not appropriate.
Brian,
yes, sir. So I started to mention, then somehow somebody in the room got us sidetracked. I don't know who. It might have been you, might have been me. We'll never know.
So combination.
Yeah. Welcome to Dairy coming this weekend.
So hold on. Also block Shannon for me, please. Thank you.
That's another one on your list of haters.
Yep.
Yep. So you got Veronica, Simone, Shannon. Yep. Sorry, I feel like Shannon's a newer name on here too.
Cindy has pets.
Yep. No unmatched socks. Oh my God! I sent you the video of Poppy with the little cowboy
so
on.
good, so good. I showed it to Michelle too.
It's been on her all night.
Really?
Yeah. So we got Poppy that I saw on TikTok. And by the way, I mentioned that my wife is losing her mind. This is one of the other day on TikTok, I saw the video of dogs with this. It's a little costume you put on the dog, almost like a vest, and but it's got like a little rodeo cowboy on the back, and it's made to like bounce. And usually you put it on dogs and they start freaking out about it, and then the cowboy is like he's riding rodeo. And I showed it to Becky. I was laughing hysterically. She's like, "Oh my God, we need to get that." And I'm like, "I am getting it." And I like immediately went to Amazon and ordered one. And I told her I ordered it. And then the day I sent you the video, I took the video at home. I put it on Poppy and sent it to her. And she's like, and she saw that. And then when I got to the gym, I showed it to her again. She's like, "Is that a cowboy on her back?" Oh my God. And she's laughing. She's like, "That's hilarious." I'm like, You were there when I ordered it. No recollection of it happening. She's thinking about thrifting and black Christmas trees. She's busy.
Shannon, thank you for joining. Is this your first time, Shannon? If it is,
I don't think it's her first time, but I don't think we hear a whole lot from, unless she changed her name. I don't remember a Shannon Diaz Blume. Team Simone's sign up will be available soon. Wait for it.
She's hating on me.
She made it though. She made it over. It's unproductive, Brian. It's been unproductive, but it's been nice. I've actually only sat out the woods twice so far. It's been busy. I've been working till 10 o'clock at night every night.
That's what Janet's doing right now, sitting out in the woods.
Needs to, yeah, it's safer that way. But we started talking about welcome to Dairy. Is anybody else looking forward to Welcome to Dairy? I think it comes out Friday. So it's Stephen King. Like Dairy, Maine is like the setting for.
I do know.
So that's the setting for it.
Okay.
It's I want to say it's the setting for Cujo. I think there's like in a lot of his books. I want to say The Last Stand or 11/22/63, the JFK time travel one. Like they go to Derry, and there's like all these intersections. There's always like Derry, Maine is like a big part of a bunch of his books. And Welcome to Derry is a TV series they've been talking about for like 2 years. That is like all these like.
Didn't they do another series that's based on
Castle Rock?
Castle Rock. That's,
yeah. Which is another like Castle Rock is a big part of a bunch of his stories. Is the setting for them, and Derry, Maine is like another big. I think is Pet Sematary. I don't remember.
Do you know how many Stephen King movies I've seen?
You're gonna hurt my feelings.
Probably two, and not the two. Not the two you would.
Which two?
Stand by Me.
Okay.
And fuck, what I just had it and I lost it. The prison movie. That's not even his, right? But it's written by him. Shawshank Redemption.
Was that written by Stephen King?
I thought it was.
Let me see.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Because I wasn't sure about either one of those being written by him.
Also, so if those are not by Stephen King, then I have not seen any Stephen King movies.
Stephen King, right? The Shawshank Redemption. Yes, he wrote Shawshank Redemption.
And did he do Stand By Me?
Right.
Which was originally called The Body.
Stand By Me. Maybe that's why. Yes, very good. It was a novella, a short story called The Body originally. So you've never seen It? Any version of It?
No. I haven't seen the new one.
You've never seen Pet Sematary? Oh, you don't like scary things.
I don't like scary movies.
Tech's afraid of the dark.
I'm not afraid of the dark.
He is afraid of the dark.
I get nightmares.
Like those are like the Cujo.
No, I've never seen Cujo. Dude, I'm telling you.
The Shining.
I've seen bits and pieces of The Shining. I've never seen the whole Shining, but I've seen bits and pieces of The Shining.
Oh, so many good ones. So many good ones. I can't wait for this series. Hopefully it's well done.
Is The Shining him or is The Shining Stanley Kubrick?
Well,
I thought The Shining was Stanley Kubrick.
Right. The Shining. Stephen King.
What am I thinking of? Is The Shining the one with the hotel and the mountain and the whatever?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I thought it was Stanley Kubrick. But yeah.
Pet Sematary, Cujo. Like you've none of these. You've never seen any of those.
No.
Man, what do you do during Halloween season? Spooky season.
I don't.
It's football
season.
Oh, yeah.
It's football.
Well, the same way I say that, I haven't turned my TV on in 3 weeks, but
no, we watch football almost every night, and it's basketball season right now. So okay. So I'm not totally off. Kubrick directed
The Shining. Stephen King wrote it.
Gotcha.
Very good. Glad we cleared that up.
Yep.
So we both can be right.
That's like when TJ and I argued about who was the lead singer of Genesis.
Phil Collins
and Peter Gabriel.
Is it Peter Gabriel?
They both were at one point.
No.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
That can't be true.
I'm pretty sure.
It's Phil Collins. I'm gonna walk away from everything if Peter Gabriel was a lead singer of Genesis.
I think he was at one point.
No, can't be.
He was definitely in it.
Not the lead.
Who was the lead? Who was Genesis original lead singer? Peter Gabriel.
And they kicked him out of his. It's like when they kicked Van Halen out of Van Halen.
Yeah.
Huh. All right, let's get this thing on the. Let's get this show on the road. We need to end this pregame.
There's a bunch of both.
Yep. All right, pre-gamers, we love you guys. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for supporting us on Patreon, and we'll talk to you guys next. Hey, Janet's gone next week because of her condition. Tuesday.
That works for me.
It'll be Tuesday. We'll be live on Tuesday next week, so make sure you set your calendars, Simone, for Tuesday evening. We love you guys. Talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Right.
Surprise. To quote Josh Hallmark, both and.
Yeah. Both and Sue. I miss Josh. I haven't seen him for a year since the last time we did the Berkshire Festival. What a pretty place to be in the fall, too. I was going to talk about Mata, but we're going to talk about him in just a minute. Okay. I'm going to hit start. Are you ready for your little intro?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I got it written. Look at that. I'm ready.
All right. Here we go.
Oh, we don't got to clap or nothing. Ahoy, friends. Thank you for tuning into Truth and Justice. You are listening to the Friday follow-up for Season 17, Episode 14. This week we heard Detective Donald's side of the story from his trial testimony. Today we are sans Janet, as she is off on assignment. But have no fear, Bob and I are here to get to your listener questions. But before we get into that, do we have any housekeeping?
Yeah, just one thing that I want to mention real quick. Just to keep everybody updated, there are no updates with the West Memphis 3 case. Just want to let everybody know that the evidence is still at the lab. It is currently being tested. My understanding is we should be expecting results by January. So I know a lot of people are not on this thread, but we're asking about that. Just want to let you guys know about that. Other thing I want to mention for those of you, if you missed it, on Wednesday, I released a trailer. Our friend Bob Mata, they remastered his old Gacy tapes
Okay.
podcast, and they put it out. They did some remastering of the actual tapes. So for those of you that don't know, Bob's dad was is it John Wayne Gacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yep. John Wayne Gacy's attorney, and has like literally like recordings of his interviews with John Wayne Gacy. And so that has been remastered. I listened to some of it today. Like the actual tapes just sound, it's amazing. It sounds like it was recorded in a 2025 professional studio. It sounds so good. And it is called, they put out as a new podcast called Buried. So if you didn't hear it, check out the trailer that we put out on Wednesday for Bob, and go check out Buried. I think there's is there like a new Gacy documentary or something?
I believe so. I don't know what's on, but I believe there is a new one.
There's like a Netflix series or something coming out. So it's kind of great timing, because he did all this extra work on it right about the time that people are kind of really getting interested in John Wayne Gacy.
I mean, it was super interesting too, and I hate to say that I didn't realize any of that until last time we were talking to Bob. I don't know if you remember this. I felt like a silly goose.
I do remember, yeah,
because we were talking and he mentioned it, and I was like, hold on. I think we were off the air at that point. I think I waited till we were off the air, and I was like, hey, Bob, I got one more question.
Yeah.
What did you mean about that? He's like, you don't know? I'm like, no, I didn't know that your dad represented John Wayne Gacy.
Yeah, that's how Bob originally got started in podcasting. Was he had all these tapes, like literal, like tapes from those interviews with Gacy, and he digitized them and then put the podcast out. But we have Sue Prize in our live chat said, was she the one that said? Yeah, said she can attest. She's listened before and the new one, and the new one sounds freaking amazing.
That's awesome.
So if you haven't listened to it, check it out. Even if you did listen to it, it'd be worth checking out again. Check out Buried anywhere you get your podcasts. And they said the new Gacy series is on Peacock.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of go along with that to get the real, like, actual hear him talk on Bob's podcast, Buried.
So before we do jump into this week, there is kind of a housekeeping question.
Okay.
David asks, basically, how do I find these live streams?
Oh, good question.
Jump into that.
So if you're listening to this on Friday and you miss the live streams every time, so the easy way to do it is just go to YouTube, go to the Truth and Justice Podcast YouTube channel. So we do these on YouTube. Typically, it's either I think we're going to be going back to Tuesdays. But usually that's at 8 p.m. Eastern time is when we go live on YouTube. So if you subscribe to our YouTube channel and there's a little bell icon, you can click for notifications. It should send you a notification on your phone whenever we're going live. Also, if you look on the Truth and Justice Podcast, the official Truth and Justice Podcast fans page, when we put up the follow-up posts, which is you guys got to start looking through. I don't know what else to do with this, but this leads us into something I need you guys to do. The Facebook algorithms have gotten ridiculous. So there are, I think, 14 or 15,000 people that are in the podcast fan page that are there because they subscribe to the page because they want to know what's going on. And when we make a post there, which is where we post the post for people to put up follow-up questions, it shows me on my back end how many people it's showing it to in their feed. And like this week, after like it was up for 2 days, it had shown it to 89 out of the 14,000 people.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So it's not putting it in people's feeds. So we try to get people to comment on it now to like boost it in the algorithm. But what we do is we always pin it to the featured posts. So if you're looking for that post, so this is also where you'll find out about the streaming times. If you go onto the fan page and you click the featured posts at the top, those are the ones we have pinned. The first one should always be the follow-up post for that week. So that's where you can ask your questions. Also, it always says when we're going to be live on YouTube for you. So you can go to YouTube or go to Facebook, or you can go to YouTube and subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and then you can be part of the gang here and watch us live and ask questions live. And by the way, those of you, we got a bunch of you that are in the live chat right now. If you have questions as we're going along, we'll try to pay attention to them, because this episode didn't generate a whole lot of questions.
Yeah, it really didn't.
Yeah, and like we were talking about, it kind of answered the rest of the questions.
Right. Well, right? And what the way that I took it is we've heard Chris's side of the story, and now we're hearing Detective Donald's side of the story. And at this point, it doesn't raise a lot of questions because it's basically it's a he said story right now.
Right.
We don't really know the facts of what's, you know what I mean? We can kind of figure out where things lie with the facts, but we don't have actual facts to say, yes, this is a lie. Yes, this is true. Yes, this is, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so it's a little difficult to kind of raise questions for this episode. It was an interesting episode to hear his version of events.
Well, and it's not only to hear his version, but you're hearing what the jury heard, so because for me, it's like, I'm always looking at these cases like, how did this conviction happen? Because like, peel away all the theatrics from the prosecution side and look at what do we have. You've got Larry Brooks, 12 years old, gets on the stand and says Chris's name a whole bunch of times. But if you read that testimony, there's not really any context. He never says like how he knows it was Chris.
Right.
He never says in that testimony that he saw him. He just keeps saying his name over and over again. So that's one element the jury had. And then you have Donald's testimony, who put into the record the statement, the air quotes confession. But it's a like, I don't think anybody believed that version of it. I mean,
are you talking about the first confession, the one that they
no, they didn't read that one in.
Okay, yeah, they just entered that as an exhibit, correct?
Right.
Okay.
In the second one, they read it into so they heard the whole story, which ended with Chris accidentally shooting Amp while he was attacking him and then killing the other two in self-defense. But we're going to get into in these next couple of weeks the like opening closing arguments. Like, that's not even the theory the state presented as happening. So you have those two things, and that's it.
Yeah, it really is.
That's all the evidence that was presented against Chris. That's the entirety of it. And they were real selective. In this Sunday's episode, you're gonna hear, I'm gonna kind of reiterate this a little bit, but it was a fast trial. Like we didn't hear from. So here's a little spoiler for Sunday. We get through the rest of the trial testimony this Sunday, the entire rest of the state's case. There are no more police officers. So if you're wondering, when do we get to hear from the lead detective talking about the investigation? Good question. They never put him on the stand. So that's kind of one of the things when I realized that I took away from Donald's testimony is, what a dirty trick. What they did is, so they didn't put people like Dame. Dame doesn't get put on the stand, right? Why? This is, and again, I'm saying a lot of the same things I'm saying on Sunday. I've already recorded that, but I'm always stressing to my investigative journalism students, anytime you're hearing a story, you're reading a source, anything like that, so you're interviewing somebody, always be asking yourself, what are they not saying? That's the question we need the answer to. Not questioning what they did say, but questioning what they're not saying, right? And so in this case, what we have is we have a trial where the lead investigator is never called as a witness. Why? Donald's testimony to me answers that question, because if you read his testimony, which at this point I don't have it up yet, but it'll be up by Friday onto the website. If you read his testimony, you'll see anytime they ask him a pressing question, a scrutinizing question, cross-examination, whatever, about something with the investigation, he punts. He's like, I don't know. That wasn't, my job was to find Bynum. I don't know what they did. Oh, I don't know the answer to that. Was this, I think I talked about in the episode this week, was there a paraffin testing? Was there a gunshot residue test? I don't know. Never heard. So by putting officers up that are other than the officers who actually did the investigation, they're able to say, I can't speak to that because I didn't do it.
And without perjuring themselves.
Without perjuring themselves or a hearsay objection.
Yeah.
Because they can't talk about what somebody else said. So, and then because sorry, here the chat seems the one that here we go. Because Dane is the one who took the statement from anything. I didn't recognize any voices. I had no idea who did that. Right. So yeah, he's the but Veen wants to stand who didn't that statement. Veen talk about what what Dame heard. If Dame was on the stand, you know that he would be subject to prosecution. You would like to think. Man, this is well, there's two of me.
I love it.
Okay.
Right.
I think we're back.
Are we back, guys?
Glitching. Sorry, guys. This is complete, except it's frozen. I think we're back now. It completely shut down on our end. It shut down and then came back.
They put Trevino on the stand.
Okay, here we go. So I'll go back to there. Instead, they put Trevino on the stand because he can't speak to what Dame heard. Dame's not there because Dame might be there to talk about some basic things that happened in the beginning, but under cross, you would like to think that the defense would have like his report and be like, well, you said right here that Larry told you that he didn't recognize anybody and didn't see anybody and didn't recognize any voices. So they avoid that. They avoid the lead detective. So you have the other evidence. You have the firearms examiner. What's the damning evidence for Chris there? He testifies that there are bullets from both crime scenes that seem to have most likely come from the same gun, therefore tying the scenes together. But what he didn't do is say, and here's the gun that we confiscated from Chris Bynum, and they match this. There is no murder weapon.
Right.
So that tells you the two crime scenes are connected, but it doesn't connect them to Chris. The autopsies don't connect them anything to Chris. Bertosi's crime scene testimony about the other crime scene investigation and the collection of evidence, none of that points to Chris. Like there's nothing there. They don't put on a DNA expert. We find out later, as I mentioned before, that there was DNA on the scene, wasn't Chris's. They don't put on a fingerprint examiner because they did find fingerprints, didn't belong to Chris.
The one question I have written down for this episode, but it's kind of overarching, is it's very confusing to me that they are. I guess I don't understand how they presented what probable cause they had to arrest Chris in the first place, because what we know is he was never. There's this anonymous tip, but we don't learn that until the appeals, right? So this anonymous tip was never brought up anytime earlier.
Well, I don't think they actually did the warrant for his arrest till after he confessed.
Okay.
So they brought him in as a suspect to question him. And then once he signed the statement, then that was their problem. The probable cause affidavit just says he confessed.
Yeah, I guess I'm still confused at how they're portraying that they got him as a suspect if they're not saying they had that tip.
They never did.
And that's bonkers to me.
It is. It really is. The whole thing is bonkers, but nobody questions it because they're like, well, we got a confession here.
Yeah. And that confession, I mean, while we know it's likely not true and there's aspects of it that we know for sure aren't true, it's still damning to hear.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge thing. I mean, look at Delphi. That's a huge, that's a majority of why Richard Allen got convicted, in my opinion.
Well, it was the only reason, right? It was the only evidence really against him.
Is the confessions, because it's damning to hear, regardless of if it's accurate.
Yeah.
If you say I did it, regardless of the details, it's hard to bypass that.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Jesse Miskelly. Same thing. Clearly, there was problems in that confession, errors in that confession, but he said I did it, or he said I'm with them.
Yeah. And so the way that was handled in this case, and this is what frightens me the most, and is so frustrating about this one is I mean, the prosecutor did a damn good job.
Yeah.
At this, because Chris's is way like very, very obvious elements of it that absolutely do not match the crime scene. Don't match it at all. Can't match it. Nowhere close to it. So the way they handle that is they don't tell you anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like this was a quintuple homicide across 5 victims, 2 crime scenes. And the state's case was presented in less than 2 days of trial. Other cases we've had, we're talking, with single homicides, 10, 15, 20 days of trial to get through all the evidence. There's nothing. And it was like, and what we can look at now in hindsight is like, it's a complete lack of evidence. For them, they were just looking at, we think the confession's enough. And the more information that we put in front of the jury, the more likely they are to realize this confession was bullshit. And so they just didn't do it. And actually, like Moxley testified, we talked about some of Moxley's testimony. He was called by the defense. He wasn't a state's witness.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it was that was it. Donald's testimony was the end of law enforcement testimony.
That's crazy to me, and it's not super long, correct? I mean, we heard it.
His is the longest one. I think his is over 100 pages. It was a pretty long one.
Okay, and what do you think that equates to in time?
I could probably go through it and tell you, because they say when they're like taking a lunch break and stuff. But I would guess he was probably the last half of the second day.
Okay, because
the other witnesses, I mean, they're one after another, 2 pages, 3 pages. Well, I mean, we're talking 3-4 minutes of testimony.
Right.
Almost everybody, they were zipping through them one after another.
Right.
And then, even the autopsy. Remember when we covered the autopsies? I was like, this is so vague.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no details here. We're having to like dig through, and I had to go back to his reports to get any information about anything, because he was just very vague in the questions they were asking. Yeah. So it was like Donald's testimony to me kind of shined a light on that, and the fact that, oh, he's the one guy that's putting anything out there, and he's the last witness. The state rested their case on Donald. Mm-hmm. He's the last witness to come out. The last thing the jury hears is that confession, and they're done.
And that's I mean, as a juror, you've heard Larry Brooks say Chris Bynum, and now this confession. That's hard to overlook.
Yeah, and the frustrating part, again, and it's weird because you're in this weird conundrum as a defense attorney when you have a 12-year-old who is the son of one of the victims of this murder on the stand, because if you push too hard, you look like a heartless bastard.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, man, you gotta do something. Like I think you could have asked him. You kept saying Chris Bynum. How did you know it was him? Like, a simple question. How did you know it was Chris Bynum? I didn't hear you say you saw him. Didn't hear you say I talked a little bit about how he'd heard the voice before, whatever, but even that's real ambiguous. Mm-hmm. Like, you never pressed him on those issues.
I do have another question really quick as I was just thinking about it. You said that in Donald's testimony, they never mentioned Terrell directly, but there's like inference that it's him.
Yeah.
How do they lead that it's him?
I'm trying to so he just says like there was another suspect that was brought in. Mm-hmm. And so they kind of give this implication that the way it comes out, if you're just reading it and don't know the full context, what it sounds like is Chris gives the first confession and names 2 guys.
Okay.
They bring the 2 guys in, and they talk about Shaky DeAndre, mm-hmm. but because he was actually, put in a cell for a bit, and gave a statement. And then they say there was another witness that we picked up, but he lied about when they picked him up.
Right.
They said that it was after the statement. And I said, I don't think that was by accident, because it made it sound like there was another suspect. We're not even going to tell you we're not even going to mention his name, because, he doesn't matter. He was just some bullshit from this statement, is the impression that you get from it. And then they said, well, did you question him? No, he wouldn't give a statement. He didn't sign the waiver, wouldn't give a statement. We let him go. That was the end of that. And so you just never hear his name. So they don't care what his name is, but they definitely left the jury with the impression that the only reason whoever this mystery man was just brought in because Chris had said something.
Right. But we do know that he was brought in. He was there the same night as Chris.
Yeah, I think he was arrested. I think Chris has started giving his statement at 9:11 or 9:12 p.m. And Terrell was officially picked up at 9:30, so which means they were already out looking for him.
Yeah, by the time
that happened. Yeah, so he was literally, and Chris's statement went on until after 11 p.m. that night before he finally signed it and it was done.
Okay.
So Terrell was already in custody while he was giving the statement. Oh, but that just wasn't what was presented to the jury.
Not at all. Well, do you want to get into some of these listener questions?
Yeah, what do we got?
All right. So Jolyn, she says that she was let's go back. Jolyn says that they had just caught up. So this is actually a question from the previous episode. Chris took the cops out to look for the gun, and even though it was apparent that there was no way the gun was thrown into the lake. So my question is, do we know what Chris actually did with his gun if he indeed had one?
There's no evidence that Chris has ever had a gun.
Okay. Doesn't he say that he owned one at some point?
I think he said that he owned one like back in 1997. That I want to say it was different caliber or whatever, that he said that, years ago he had one or something.
All right. And they have a follow-up question here that says, if he had nothing to do with the crimes, why would an innocent person's first instinct be to run?
Well, I think a lot of that comes down to, I can't speak for Chris. I can speak to a lot of what we learned in season 15 working in Benton Harbor, which, by the way, these are very similar areas. Very similar areas. Gary and Benton Harbor. And there's a culture there. There's a distrust of police. There's history with them to where that's the same reaction you hear from people in Benton Harbor. Like, if the cops are looking for you, and you know that you have crooked cops, and you know how they operate, because that's certainly the case in Benton Harbor. It was definitely the vibe in Benton Harbor, or in Gary as well. And we're going to get into later. I mean, there's court cases. There's all kinds of corruption that was exposed during this time in Gary. The police were not to be trusted. They certainly weren't trusted by particularly the Black community in that neighborhood. And so you hear somebody, they're looking at you for a murder. You pretty much know they're going to hook you up for this murder. Like, Well,
and the other thing that makes me curious is if he did know that that's what they were looking for him for, or if there was some other reason. We see a lot in a lot of these cases where, some of these suspects have done something silly.
Right.
And then that ends up turning on them because they took the grandma's car when they weren't supposed to, or,
yeah.
So I almost wonder if Chris was like, had some, maybe was selling weed and was like, oh no, they're here. And it had nothing to do with the idea that they were charging him with murder, trying to talk to him about a murder case.
Yeah, that certainly could be the case. But I from my understanding, he did, like, he was told, I believe they had gone to the mother-in-law's house.
Okay.
Somebody that he had been told that they were looking for him about this murder.
Because it does read as guilty, which I understand. Now, knowing what we know with the society there and everything, but it just does read overall as a guilty action.
Yeah, for sure.
So, all right. So Angela says, this may have been discussed. If so, I apologize for asking again. Was it not standard protocol when questioning suspects to record it? I may be wrong. I thought on the questioning of Charles Manson and his followers, the questioning was recorded. I'm not comparing this case to Charles Manson. I was just wondering. So if it was standard protocol, why did the defense attorney not fight because it wasn't recorded?
It wasn't standard protocol. So there were, it's not even laws, but there were, like, the FBI, after, I don't remember the year, Jim told me about it. I want to say it was as late as something like 2010. Someone can look up and fact check this, but there was a time where the FBI made it like standard protocol to where they are required by policy to record every single interview from beginning to end. But that's just an FBI policy. It's not a law. So they're not required to do that. And it was definitely not the standard operating procedure for the Gary Police Department at the time. And to my knowledge, there's still no law that requires it. But you see a lot of departments now, because of now that there's actually, like, people are awake now and paying attention, and there's things like podcasts and YouTube channels and social media where, their cops are constantly under much more scrutiny now for acts of violence and harassment and the things they do, is why most departments nationwide now have policies that they wear body cams all the time.
So a quick search says 2014 is when the DOJ required the FBI.
That sounds right. Yeah. So it was only 11 years ago when the FBI made it a policy that they record all interviews. A lot of local departments don't, but because of the scrutiny that's put on them finally for the things they're doing, most departments now are trying to be more transparent. They're making their officers wear body cams. They're making the dash cams be on. They're recording interviews because, there was it seems like a lifetime ago, but it really wasn't that long ago, where people just kind of accepted what the police did. and they were, there's all kinds of incidents from cities all across the country where they just been physically violent and abusive. Look at what happened with Freddie Gray. All these different cases that have happened out there, to where finally people started pushing back on them for the first time really in history. Like when we were kids, like you never heard about anybody like pushing back on the cops. Besides the fact that you just kind of trusted the authority, but on top of that, there was like this mindset of, well, they're criminals anyway, so screw them. And it's like, because of all these newer sources of media that are really, I think, helping to educate people, now people are paying attention. Police departments are getting sued, officers are getting prosecuted. So now all of a sudden they want to be transparent, but it certainly was not the case, and it was definitely not a law or clearly even a policy, because even witnesses, you're going to hear this weekend on Sunday's episode, you're going to hear Michelle Flores's statement. The Michelle who Liz and Sheila were at her house before they left that night. It's the same as Chris's, same as the other ones. It looks like a transcript. It's not.
Man, that's crazy to me. Richard says, do you know if the defense had the information that Terrell was arrested before Chris was brought in? Do you think it is possible that Terrell is actually the source of the so-called tip?
I can't speak to whether he's the source of the tip. I don't even think there was a tip. I mean, I feel like that would have certainly come up. I should choose my words more carefully. There's a couple things in this case that are like this. I think there was a tip. I don't think the tip was that Chris Bynum was involved in it. I think there was probably a tip that there was a Chris. I think the name Chris there's too much of it floating around here for it not to be a part of this. Part of that, I'm just like giving away all of Sunday's episode, but like the Michelle Flores's statement, the piece of paper that said Chris and a phone number on it. I've said before, there's no way that originally I said there's no way that paper exists. But after reading her statement, I think the paper did exist. But I think the phone number that they put into their report, and the phone number or into their little interview transcript, and the phone number they put into Chris's transcript is his number that match. There's no fucking way that's what was written on that paper, or it would have been entered into evidence at trial, or it would still be sitting in evidence. I mean, that is the biggest smoking gun you could possibly have. And the idea of her like remembering a number is out there, but the idea of her remembering the day after that the name Chris was written on it, that I believe.
Yeah.
I believe that you remembered the name Chris. I believe that there in for the reasons you'll see in Sunday's episode, there was a note. I think there definitely was one. I think it did say Chris. I think there was a tip about a Chris, but I think for the same reason the note didn't make it to trial is the same reason the tip didn't make it to trial. Because I don't think it actually identified Chris Bynum. It just identified a Chris.
Yeah, which is a very common name.
Yeah. So, and I wish we knew. I wish we had the investigative reports to see like how that landed them on Chris Bynum. My guess is there's probably, if there was some kind of tip that there was something about Chris and Shaky, maybe they started looking for Shaky. They find out that Chris Bynum was with Shaky at the VFW. So I don't know. Like we should have the answers to these questions. It's insane that we don't. Like how this happened, how they got to Chris Bynum.
Yeah, it's just that the idea that all we know is the way they found these guys was this so-called tip that never comes up really.
Yeah, at all.
And they find Chris within 24 hours and have him arrested and figured out. Like it doesn't.
Crime solved.
I cannot figure this out. I mean, in the slightest bit, I cannot.
And you would think after going through the entire police file like I have, and now you guys have heard the entire trial testimonies of all the law enforcement officers, you'd have the answers to that. But it's I'm telling you, it is nuts that in the fucking trial for a man going on trial for his life, that's supposed to be trying to get justice for 5 innocent victims, that we walk away having no idea why Chris Bynum was ever on their radar to begin with. Not a clue. Not a clue. So as far as it was Terrell the tipster, I don't know. I doubt it. I doubt that's the case. And again, I don't think the tip was what they're saying it is. I don't know. Maybe there's like a CI angle there somewhere with there's been thoughts about that with like him or with Shaky. I don't know. I have no idea. As far as did the defense, yeah, the defense has the report. They had the information that Terrell was picked up on that Friday, but that requires some real attention to detail, and then also strategy. Like, is it worth bringing this up? So,
and was Chris's attorney a court-appointed attorney?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, it's like, do you bring it up? So let's say you did notice. Okay. So the state just has Donald say, yeah, there was another witness. He came in, he didn't give a statement. How do you get in? So now you're the defense attorney, you come up for cross.
Mm-hmm.
Who was this other witness? And they tell him, okay, well, or this other suspect. Well, his name was Terrell. Well, you said it. When was he picked up? Worst case scenario is like, oh, let me look at my notes. Oh, he was picked up at 9:30. Well, wasn't that while Chris Bynum was giving his statement? Yeah. And then the backfire could be, well, yeah, I mean, that guy had nothing to do with it. We only were looking for him because Chris told, well, it's not, he was still doing his statement. Well, he mentioned him in the pre-interview. Like, there's so many ways around it.
Yeah.
And it's like, do you want to draw any more attention? Because now they're just making Chris look like a liar.
Right.
So I can see why the defense attorney didn't bring it up, but there were so many, like, it was such a game of 4D chess, this whole thing. It's like, we're going to give them no information. And this is like the way I see the prosecution, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to give the jury no information, just the confession, just Larry saying his name over again.
Yeah.
And I dare you to give them to try to dig into more information, because any piece you put in that might help Chris is also a Pandora's box that could just blow up in your face.
Right. And I mean, the old cliche of like, how do you prove a negative? It's they're fighting. Chris's defense attorney is just fighting something you can't prove.
Right.
Like the entire way.
Yeah. And again, like, it's even like the abuse and everything. That's the tough one, man. And that's the worst thing about our system. So once you have that statement signed, the only possible way that you can try to undo that damage would be to put Chris on the stand,
mm-hmm.
which is extremely dangerous in any criminal case.
So that actually, listener Colin writes, "Hi Bob, I know it's not usually wise for defendants to testify at their own trial, but how on earth did the defense expect to counter Chris's confessions without him doing so? Surely that was a huge mistake, which left it inevitable that he would be convicted."
I don't know if it, I mean, I agree with you, but also I don't know that it would have made a difference. I mean, that's a tough trial. I've been critical of Grady Graddick for a lot of things that he's done. I don't think he did a great job of cross-examining anyone. But even with that, the more I look into the trial, it's like, well, what the hell did he have to work with it? When they put a witness up that talks for 2 minutes, doesn't give any information, doesn't open any doors for cross, there's not a lot he can do with it. You got Larry, who the only witness he really could have pinned down. But do you want to pin him down in front of the jury?
That gives a really bad taste.
Especially when even if you get past Larry, if you make the jury think, hey, maybe this kid's lying about that name, mm-hmm. That you got the confession coming around the corner.
Yeah.
So putting Chris up. So let's walk through that hypothetical. You put Chris on the stand. He gets up there and tells this story. It's the year 2000. Before anybody even thought that a police officer could ever be capable of doing anything bad. Does the jury just believe him? Probably not.
Right.
You've got this uniformed police officer sitting, in his fancy uniform, telling you this is what happened. Here's where he signed his Miranda waiver. Here's where he initialed every page. Here's where he signed the statement. And now he's claiming he didn't do it. I don't think it would have made a day. I agree that it would have been the only way they could have.
Yeah.
But I don't think it would have worked. So truthfully, the only way that I think it would have had to have been a combination of things. And I'm not saying, obviously I'm not an attorney, but I always think about this. Like, how would I have handled this? Because this is a mess, right? You're the defense attorney here. This is a disaster. You got these statements on the record. It doesn't, but like the only way. So you have to first imply that Chris didn't, or that Chris signed those confessions under duress.
Okay.
Right. The only way to do that is to put Chris on the stand. So there's a big cost benefit here. The only way to make the jury believe that is then to present evidence proving that the confession is false. So then you end up putting on a defense case that's bigger than the prosecution's case. So things like here in the statement, you got to go through piece by piece. Here in the statement, He says he thinks there was a 5-year-old kid in there. So you got to somehow put on evidence that it was actually an 18-month-old child. Well, how do we know he knows the difference? So then somehow you got to put on evidence showing that he actually has an infant and he has another kid. Like he certainly knows the difference between a toddler and a 5-year-old kindergartner, right? So you can put that up, and you can really dig into more but it's a big, long, risky process, I think. But I think that's the only way you could do it. You have to first, I think, throughout the state's case, you would have to cross-examine witnesses in a way that you can bring out those details and show the inconsistencies in the statement. And then after doing that, then you have to put Chris on the stand and get him to tell his story. And then I think maybe if you didn't have 15 backfires along the way, maybe that might have swayed at least enough jurors to get you a hung jury.
Yeah. I mean, can you combat any of it with the idea that there is zero physical evidence that connects Chris to this crime?
Well, that was the problem. How do you prove a negative?
Yeah.
So they didn't put up any forensic evidence. We didn't hear from a DNA expert, didn't hear from a fingerprint examiner, didn't hear any of that stuff. So then do you then put them on? And I don't know how much of the stuff, but we're gonna have a forensic episode, but I don't know how much of the stuff was known by the defense prior to the trial about like the DNA and things like that. I'll tell you like now, like since the trial, they've identified, they know whose DNA it is.
Oh, wow.
In some of the instances, they know whose fingerprints they are. Oh, man. So it's not just like this, but at the time, because they hadn't taken that step yet, it's kind of like Delphi and any of these other cases, right? Well, the DNA doesn't match them, but that could have come from the manufacturer. We have no idea. It could be anybody, right? Well, now we know it's not anybody,
right?
In a lot of these cases, but we learned too late. So I don't know. Yeah, to answer the question, Colin, I don't know how you combat it. Yeah, that probably would have been the only way to get around it, but then would it have worked? I kind of think that part of the reason the prosecution's case was so light was because they knew they had him. It was an unwinnable case for the defense.
Our last question comes from Jessica, and it says, did the detectives involved in this case have any other complaints against them? Was it normal to have no recordings during murder investigations during this time period? Which we kind of answered that with the first part.
Yeah, people have asked this before, and I've started doing research on this. I've got some newspaper articles. I'm digging deeper. There was certainly a whole lot of corruption, a lot of big issues, and a lot of this type of behavior that the Gary Police Department was caught doing about this time. But we're going to dig into and start seeing where names intersect. That's a little trickier to find, but we'll be getting into that later. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap this thing up for tonight. So what we got coming on this Sunday is we're going to hear the rest of the state's case at trial. So we're going to hear about the last few witnesses, talk about the investigation. We're going to hear Michelle Flores's actual police statement, not her trial testimony, and there's some significant differences there. So that's what we got coming up on Sunday. And also this weekend, I don't know if you'll hear it next weekend or the weekend after. But Zach and I we're packing up this weekend. At least that's the plan as of now. And we're going to go put boots on the ground. We're headed to Gary, and we think we're to the point where we need to start. We need to physically go to the crime scenes, particularly the ball field. We want to check distances, see what the crime scene looks like. It's a little different now, but start kind of taking some measurements and getting an idea of what's there. And there's a couple witnesses we're hoping to track down while we're there.
Yeah, it's going to be what we need to do for sure.
Yep. So that's all what we got coming. And make sure you tune in on Sunday, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Bye, guys.
See ya. All right. Oh, I haven't even looked. I told people to ask questions in the chat, and then
I was scrolling through. There's really not anything.
Social reason about that. I say that people assume those who are arrested must be guilty.
Yeah, there's really not anything.
All right. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and end this stream. Guys, make sure you send Janet all your well wishes. If you guys follow her on social or something, send her a message. She's having a rough time. We'll talk to you guys next week. Remember, for those of you that are in the stream now, we're looking at probably streaming Tuesday next week. It's going to be Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time, 7 for the patrons. Talk to you guys then. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.